All right, here we are live, the 1 o'clock hour. We have another incredible wrestling mind in our country. Obviously, a great wrestler in his own sense, and then he got into coaching. Spent 6 years at Cornell, and now I believe since '06 or '07, he's been at Virginia. So he has definitely found his home there. It's his 14th year. They've won the ACC championship as a team twice. He himself was an ACC champ there in '97 and an NCAA finalist. They've definitely are putting out some great kids and some great wrestlers, and we'll talk more about that as we get into it. But Coach Garland, hey man, thanks so much for coming in, and I appreciate you pulling up the lounge chair there in your courtyard.
Yeah, you like it? I'm on the lawn right now. This is called the lawn at UVA. This is the academical village.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. I like it. Well, thanks for coming on, Coach. And obviously, the times we're in are a little difficult to be a wrestling coach, a college professor, a guy doing a TV show, anything right now. So what have you been doing to just kind of stay in your guys' ears and stay functioning and just keeping their head above water?
Well, it kind of goes in stages. I think right away in March, it was funny. I was tracking my old text messages the other day, laying in bed, just trying to get myself together. I'm like, man, it kind of went in these like different triage phases. So first triage was first 2 weeks, make sure everybody's okay. Get them at it, get them off campus, get them home safely, make sure they're taken care of. Because when this all went down, it was pure panic mode. I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how it was like where you're at, but here people were like, let's go. We got to get everybody out. We're dead. No, you can't go to the facility. You can't go to your office. I mean, everything changed. You have not only just the working from home, which I've never done in 20 years of professional working. And then on top of that, you've got 36 guys you got to take care of and make sure they're okay. So that was the first stage of it. Once we got over that first hump, we kind of settled in a little bit. It was like, okay. And I'm just going to be honest. I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I didn't think it was going to last this long. So I'm like, we'll be okay. And so I just kept.
I won't tell anybody. I won't tell anybody you said it.
Yeah. I was just like, we'll be all right. But I didn't think there's any way this would last this long. And so my next phase was, all right, let's just start calling. I had this list, and I would call the guys every week. I would call 15 guys, 15 or 16 guys per week, and just keep those conversations going and get them planning and what our goals, and let's recap the season, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden the reality hit, no, man, well, this is going to be a while. And this is going to be
crazy.
And everything started shutting down. And Fargo gets canceled. And it's like, well, and this is again a confession. As much as because I still put in my work. I mean, I'm a nutcase. Today I was up before 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm always doing something, but it ended up being like, wait a second, let me embrace this. Let me actually go for a walk. I've never done that before. Let me go for a walk and actually enjoy my life. And for the first time in 20 years, I didn't have to travel every single week. It was amazing. And so then I went kind of through this 2-week phase of like, life is great, barbecue, weekend, I didn't know what weekends were like. I never had weekends. I've always worked. I've always traveled, always worked. So I was like, this is insane. This is crazy. Like real people, normal people, you can actually sleep in on a Saturday morning, So then I went through that phase. And the next phase was, recruiting, right? And then we just started pounding the phones and Zoom calls, right? We all figured out Zoom, and then we're doing virtual tours, and then 22 class. Now you got to call them. So, I mean, just the other night, I got off my last Zoom at 8:30 at night, 8:45 at night, and I started my day around 7. So that's a pretty long day. I took a lunch break and a dinner break, but so I mean, we're staying really busy. But it's doing things you never thought you'd be doing, because typically this time of year, we're at the US Open, we're at the World Team Trials, we're at U23 World Team Trials, we're RTC practice, right? We're doing team building. I mean, so the relationship piece and that hands-on with your guys is missing, which is really sucks. I mean, it's a huge hole, but you're a human, so you end up filling it with all this other crap. So now I'm just on the phone all day long, calling recruits and telling them how great they are, telling them about Virginia. So I'm definitely not at a loss for things to do. I'm doing different things than what I normally be doing this time of year, I think.
Yeah, that's all. I think I told I had a coach on, was it yesterday or something? I said, hey, what are you guys going to do with this recruiting budget? You guys going to have a pizza party when they come in or what? Because, I mean, you're not traveling, you're not taking them to dinner, you're not out doing whatever it is you do because you're on Zoom. So the worst thing is you're spending that $14 a month, but
welcome.
Yeah. You're going to have burgers and wings when they show up. It's going to, you got to use it. Well, I guess it just says it'll be a good trip to a good tournament or maybe something like that. But
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been tough here too. I'm not on a college campus. I'm sure if I was, it would be as crazy. But yeah, definitely Florida did shut down for a while, and it opened up, and now the cases are kind of, you know, going up, and people are getting a little out of sorts. So we'll see if this thing recycles. You know, hopefully not, but I don't know. I just hope they find some sort of resolution to where they can control it and people can go back to normal. You know, kind of like getting the flu shot. Like, all right, go to Walgreens, get the COVID shot. You're good. Go back and play in the park. You know.
Yeah. So
That's awesome, man. So obviously, you're doing big things up there in VA. I mean, since you've been there, 11 All-American honors, 18 individual ACC titles, 76 NCAA qualifiers, 7 of the last 10 season in the top 25, 2 ACC team titles. I mean, you're doing huge things there. Well, I mean, kids should want to come to Virginia and wrestle for you. Why is your program so successful? What is your culture and philosophy, and what's it like coaching your alma mater?
man, that's a lot. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. I mean, we're definitely the humble confessions. We're not where we want to be. Our goals are higher than that. We want to be competing for NCAA team trophies every single year. And you know, I think to do that, to your point, we have to have guys that actually buy into. You mentioned the word culture, and here's us. So here's me, really. When I first got the job here, I was a pretty lost dude. I was messed up. I was a 29-year-old kid, fresh off National Coach of the Year, a top 5 finish at Nationals, pumping out national champs. I just thought I was the gift. I just thought I had it all figured out, you know, and I got humbled. I got humbled really quickly here. My marriage was in rough shape. We'd only been married a year. My daughter was only 4 days old when I got hired. I didn't know how to be a good parent. And I was obsessed. I was absolutely obsessed with transforming this program and turning this thing around, because the team that I inherited hadn't scored a single point at the national tournament in 2 years. So we had a lot of work to do. And so I was kind of, I'm an obsessive guy, and I went overboard. It got to the point where that's the only thing I cared about was winning. And so I learned a tough lesson in and through that. And I always tell my guys, you learn a lot more in the pit than you do on the mountaintop. And I was in the pit and was in that pit. See, when you're in the pit, you're humbled and you're ready to actually see, listen, your heart's open to receive information. You're ready to make changes. And all the biggest changes in my life happened in that season. And go figure, as I changed from the inside out, the program changed from the inside out. And so 4 years later, we were top 15 at the national championship, and we won an ACC title, first ACC championship in wrestling since 1977. So that's a pretty big turnaround, you know. And how that happened was, honestly, these 3 pillars: focus, discipline, consistency. And they sound really cliche when you first hear them, but it took a lot of prayer, a lot of thought, a lot of seeking to come up with these. What am I going to be about? And then more importantly, what are my guys going to be about when they leave here? What are they actually going to be equipped with? In other words, what's my why? The first thing that changed here is my why. When I first started, I was in it for glory. I was in it for Steve Garland. I was in it for all the wrong reasons. And that doesn't work. You can fake the funk for a while, but that's going to catch up to you. And when God changed my heart, my why became to glorify him. And in doing so, how do I do that? Well, by treating my guys correctly, by treating them the right way, by loving them as I want somebody to love me, and truly pour everything I have into them. And oh, by the way, starting in my home. And so as that foundation changed, then I get to work and things start to be different. So then you start to recruit different. As you recruit different, you get kids that are actually high character guys. And then as they come in, like guys like Nick Solzer, 3-time All-American, 2 degrees here. Now he's an FBI agent. Chris Hendrick, 3-time All-American. Now he's a vice president on Wall Street. John Fauci, ACC champion, NCAA round of 12, who's now a physician's assistant, you know, graduated from Yale after he left here to PA school. Matt Schneider, 2-time ACC champ, 2-time round of 12, who's now a doctor, a pediatrician in Houston, Texas, helping with COVID right now. Those kids, they're the ones that changed our program from the inside out. Because when you get guys like that, just like negativity spreads quick, as I'm sure you know, and the viruses, they spread fast. Guess what? The positive stuff spreads just as quickly. And so it came from basically shoving that room packed chock full of guys like that. And then guys that believed in me, guys who said, hey, coach, I actually want to do it your way, because frankly, I'm huge on you have to live your life a certain way, in my opinion, to be able to excel. at a high level at anything in life. And so a lot of guys didn't like that lifestyle. So it was years of filtering that out because some guys quit, some guys transferred, some guys didn't want to be told what to do. They weren't bought in. But once you get that down right, then good things start happening. That's when we won another ACC championship in 2015. And then success breeds success. Because we won in 2015, we were able to get Jack Mueller in 2016. Then he comes 17. We were top 15 again because he's an All-American, and his workout partner takes second in the country, George DiCamillo. So that iron sharpening iron, right? And then that leads us to get, these other guys. So Jay Aiello, who's now ranked third in the country for us. I mean, he was sharpened because Jack was there. And so even and I'll give our enemies, I should not use the word enemies, our competition, the guys that are doing great jobs. That's what they've done. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to help them out too much, but there's a lot of guys doing good things in our sport that are building those cultures from the inside out. And then that culture then breeds. And then what happens is the wrong guys won't come because they don't really want to be part of it. They can say whatever they want from their mom and dad on the home visit. But they don't want to be part of something like that,
Well, and it's funny because I spoke to a coach at an Ivy League school up in New Jersey. And he said, education is huge here. And same thing you said, like, they don't want to come here. If they don't want to come here, I tell them, I try to put that fear into them. Like, look, this is big things are expected.
Yeah.
Not just to wrestle. So that's funny. And yeah. The other place that you compete with yesterday, that coach signed up. So I was like, hey, interesting.
Nice. Well, I love what the principal coach said. I love what he said because I had Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett won a national championship here in basketball, which is, again, pretty dang hard to do. He's one of the best human beings you'll ever meet. I go to a Bible study with him. I go to Zoom Bible study with him on Wednesdays. And he said the same thing. He said, when he gets in these guys' homes, he scares them. He'll say, listen, you don't want me. I'm too hard. I'm not sexy. We do defense and we work really hard and we're about hustling, man. We're not about you. We're about us. We're about the team. You don't want that. You don't want to come. And the kids the right kids are like, what? Yeah, I want that. I can handle that. The wrong kids were like, yeah, you're right, man. I don't want that. I want it to be easy,
I want to go to the JCC.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I want glory. And a lot of kids see, here's the thing. This is probably too much again, but listen, we're open here. We're on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
A lot of kids say they love wrestling. They don't. They love winning. They love glory. They love what wrestling gives them. They don't love the process. They don't love the training. They don't love the reckoning. They don't love the adversity. They don't like the suffering. And you got to love all that in our sport. You got to be into it. I mean, you have to love every second of it or else you're not going to get the most out of it. It's not about the results. What I was trying to say at the beginning of this is I stopped being fixed on outcomes and I started being fixed on people. I started being fixed on impact instead of the outcome. And that's when everything changed. And so if I did that, and my guys need to start doing that. If they stop fixating on outcomes and start fixating on the process, it's amazing what good's going to come out of that. Regardless of what accomplishments come or don't come, they're going to be a much better off person by the time they graduate.
Yeah. And I mean, life hasn't been all roses for you. So you've learned how to overcome a lot of adversity that these kids are going to face in life. And I'm sure you're able to bring that to them and just say, hey, look, I know you know it all. I have a 14-year-old now that knows more than I'll ever know because he's smarter than me. So, I get it. But yeah, you try to say, hey, look, I walked left. That's why I'm trying to show you to go right. Right. So that's awesome, man. I love what you're doing there. And I love that it's about the kids and I love that it's about getting them educated. And yeah, winning's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah, no, we want to win, make no mistake, but we want to do it the right way. And it's a great question. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having really high goals. And we have those. I mean, we've had, George DiCamillo and Jack were in the national championship match and both times we really thought they were going to win. And frankly, we were absolutely crushed when they didn't. I mean, heartbroken. And
they lost to the one guy lost to a pretty good wrestler.
Well, they both lost to great wrestlers, but hey, here's the cool part about wrestling. I guess any sport, we really believed in our guys and we really believed they were going to win. And so when you really believe that with all your heart and you lose, it hurts twice as much.
Oh yeah. Right? And then I'm sure, I'm sure the kid from Iowa has broken a lot of coaches' hearts.
Yeah. He's no joke for sure. Yeah.
He's a beast. And leading right into that, I wrote down those two names. I wrote down, what has made you such an amazing recruiter or your team that you have around you recruiting. You've been a top 25 class several years now. You were top 5, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. You've brought in Mueller, as you said, Aiello. They both went deep, deep, deep into the NCAAs. And then now you've got an amazing young stud you brought from Florida. And I'm sure people watching would like me to ask, what's the future look like for Trey Lane? And how's he look and how's he doing up there in Virginia?
Yeah. Well, first part, I'll get to Trey in a second for sure. Absolutely. But the first part, George D. Camillo was a huge recruit. He was I think he won Super 32 or took second. He was a 2-time state champ, 4-time Ironman champ. A lot of great teams were after him. Michigan, Ohio State, to name a few. A lot of teams were after him. But what happened with George was relationship. I mean, for me, I've made some mistakes too in recruiting. I made some big mistakes, and I think they're pretty public too. But the guys that have worked out, or when I go to their home, we're speaking the same language. Like, it was from the second I stepped foot into George's house, it was the right fit for me and for them. We just loved each other, and it was a really good relationship from the start. And I poured a lot into him throughout the process, and he poured a lot into us. And I'll never forget, I was sitting behind a supermarket. I was literally hiding behind a supermarket, crouched down, because my wife was in there shopping. I was trying to do like the final call with him, like, we need you, we want you. And when he committed, I remember just being so happy because I knew he's the right guy for us. He was a UVA guy. And so I think it was relationship. And same thing with Nick Solzer, was another huge recruit for us at the time, high school national champ, state champ from Ohio. And everybody wanted him, but he picked us because it was a relationship driven thing. So I think that's the key part. That's what makes this so hard with just doing Zooms, is because it's kind of hard to develop a real relationship through a computer, but we're trying.
Yeah. Yeah, but listen, hey man, you're bringing the energy. I love it, man. I love the energy. I love hearing you. I love hearing a coach bring it like you do. And I can see why kids want to come and wrestle for you. But yeah, man, go ahead.
Well, thanks. And as far as Trey goes, yeah, Trey's really good. So because he's my size, I get to wrestle him. And I remember the first time we went live, I was like, man, I knew he was good because of his credentials, and I watched him wrestle. That's how I found him. I watched him at NWCA Nationals, but I was like, man, he's even better than I thought. I mean, he's just really good at wrestling. He's got great technique. He's got a great feel. He's got a great wrestling IQ. His thing is physically, he needs to mature. Hopefully, God willing, God will take a lot of that over and starts going hair in his face and starts, you know how that is, right? Starts getting beard action. But it's just the grind of college wrestling, being able to get your body through a full season and not get injured. And he had a couple different injuries that kind of set him back. And so really it's the physical part, the physicality of our college wrestling, Division I wrestling. That's what I think he needs to get adjusted to. But he has all the talent. He has all the tools.
That's awesome. And before I get into my last question here, what I've talked to a few coaches over the last couple months, and what do you tell kids that are maybe towards the end of their career in high school and they're getting ready to prepare themselves for that transition? What do you say is the most important thing that they need to prepare for? Is it the mental thing? Is it that you're walking into a room going from like a 3-time state champion to now you're just another dude in the room? What stuff do they need to prepare themselves for to at least be somewhat prepared for what slaps them in the face?
Yeah, I get asked that a lot. And I think we hit on this a little bit, is that love for wrestling. I think the first thing is they have to understand and rightly recognize that adversity is coming, that they're going to be struggling more than they've ever struggled in their life. Failure is the best teacher, and they're going to fail more than they've ever failed. At first, obviously first month of practice is going to be a rude awakening no matter who they are. And so they have to understand that that's part of it, and it's okay. It's okay to not get every takedown. I remember Mueller, if he gave up one takedown his first year here, I'm not kidding you, it would ruin his week. He'd be so mad he wouldn't even talk to you. We and him were going one weekend. It was like a Saturday morning practice, just me and him were doing extra individual, and I slapped a cradle on him. And I'm not even kidding you. I only had my hands locked for like 20 seconds. I didn't even turn him. And as a matter of fact, I think he reversed me out of it. So I didn't even get anything out of it. He was so mad that I just got my hands locked in that position that he didn't talk to me the rest of the day.
That's like the new quarterback throws an interception in practice.
Yeah, no, but it's like, so part of it, that's a good thing. That's why he's so good. And why he will continue to be good is because he's so competitive. But the other side of it is like, okay, let's get a grip. Let's get some perspective. So I guess the way to answer that first is they have to learn perspective. Now, the world isn't ending because you got to see. The world isn't going to end because your girlfriend broke up with you. I promise you it's not a big deal. You think it is, but it isn't. It's just like, half of my job the first year they're here is just getting them off the ledge and saying, brother, I'm telling you right now, I know I'm only 43, but I've been where you've been. It's not a big deal. You're good. You know, I mean, just trying to get them to understand that. And then when they get Virginia, they get smacked in the face with the hardest academics they've ever felt in their life. Oh, I always get this. I took calc in high school. I'm like, okay, Virginia's the number one school in the, trust me, it's hard, you know, and they get humbled there, and then they get humbled in the room, and then they go with Coach Paulson, my assistant, and they get their head ripped off, and they're like, ooh. So it's kind of learning how to deal with all that stuff. And then the other thing is falling in love, actively, intentionally falling in love with the sport. Our sport, you have to always stay up with it. Always stay up with it, man. If you're not constantly learning, you're going to get passed by. And so fall in love with learning, fall in love with being an incremental improver, a continuous learner, getting a little bit better each day, and stop being so worried about, I got to be a national champ, you know, actually take a step back and get obsessed with the process and enjoy it. And so to me, that I would say that's the biggest thing, because a lot of kids get and that's why I think a lot of kids quit. That's why I think a lot of our retention rate in the sport in general, if you look at the statistics, it's not great. It's because I think kids come and they're like, wait a second, this is hard. I'm not getting what I want. And they don't have any patience. They don't have any perseverance. They just want short-term result. And when they don't get it, that's it. I'm done. Press the easy button. I call it the easy button. They want to hit that easy button and go. A lot of them go back home where they're high school heroes, right? Or who knows? Or they just join a frat, or they just kind of live life and let's just enjoy. It's like, no, man, you have some goals. Like, actually stay on this path. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be worth it. You know?
Yeah, I had a coach tell me yesterday, a couple of days ago, I was talking to him on the phone, and he said a wrestler's goal should be to graduate college as a wrestler. He said to me, you should see, if you looked up the statistics of the amount of freshmen that come in as a wrestler, and if they're still wrestling their senior year, you'd be surprised at how many don't make it to that fourth year, you know, first or second year. As you're saying, it's too tough, it's hard. I'm just going to go hit the college life. And, you know, they get to graduation, just not as a wrestler. And, and I think what you're saying is let's find a way to keep them in the room and in the mats and kind of through the grind and get them there. But yeah, it makes sense. The last question I have before I get into my 10 question thing that I do is I read a really cool story on how you met your twin coaches, the Paulsons. So yeah, man, talk about that. That was a super dope read I read this morning. And man, if people don't know your story, they need to get on there and read it because it's deep, but it's a pretty cool story how you met them.
Well, thanks so much. Yeah. So they've been such a blessing to me, and it's such a God thing. I was the keynote speaker at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes prayer breakfast at the 2017 NCAA championship. And in that tournament, we had two guys in the semis. And so it was right before that round, or right before the quarterfinal round, maybe even. I was doing the speech in my suit and then sprinted over to the arena to go coach my guys. So it was pretty stressful. But what I did up there on stage, it was a huge packed house, man. It was awesome. It was like 300, 400 people. And I shared my testimony about how I grew up. And basically I gave them a really quick story. I was like, this is where I was. This is where Jesus came into the picture, where the change happened. This is where I'm at now. And so people can argue all they want about certain things, but they can't argue with a transformed life. And so basically my story was, look, if God can save me, he can save anybody, because I was a knucklehead. And if I can change, you can change. And so that was the encouragement. And I think the Paulsons, I had no idea they were in the crowd, but they loved the fact that I was so vulnerable, that I was willing to share something, because I shared some pretty rough stuff, some pretty personal stuff up there on stage. That they couldn't believe it. They're like, I don't think they've ever seen a leader do that before, or a man get up there and expose himself that much to a bunch of strangers. And so they just looked at each other and they said, man, we'd like to work with that guy someday. That's a leader we could get behind. Well, here's how crazy it is. And I talk about God's providence. Well, like 2 weeks later, I got a job opening. My one coach, Mark Ellis, he's an awesome guy. We're still really close to this day, but he went into full-time ministry. Jordan Lean, my other assistant coach, he goes up to Pittsburgh with Keith Gavin, who also worked with me here at Virginia. So all of a sudden,
I had him on last week.
Oh, did you? Oh, awesome. Yeah. So not only do I have one position, I got two positions. So when I called Travis, he goes, you're never going to believe this, Steve. He goes, dude, I heard you speak at the FCA banquet. I was there. He goes, I told my brother that day that I wanted to work for you. And I go, well, hey, I got a job. I go, let's get him too. And the next thing you know, we're on the phone, we're flying him out. And within a month, I think we had both of them locked down, and they fell in love as soon as they came here. A lot of people don't realize how beautiful it is here. They got here and they're like, they thought I was pulling their chain being a salesman.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they got here and they were like, oh my goodness, coach, you were right. This place is amazing. We can build something here. This place is awesome.
And now you have their nephew.
Yeah. We got moving the whole family out. Yeah. But
Everybody's involved now. And he was good, right? At the Cyclones. He wrestled.
Yeah, he wrestled Iowa State. And so, but isn't that crazy though? How like we didn't know each other. We had no relationship. We knew each other just by name.
I read the story. I was like, first of all, just type in Steve Garland wrestling and scroll down. You'll see the keynote that he spoke, and read the story. It's not my story to share. So read the story, and it's a great story. And I believe everything is good now, right? With the family and everything's back on the up and up, and which is amazing. So good for you and your family. And I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, if you want to read a good story about a human opening up, man, that was pretty dope. And that's why I wrote down at the end of my notes, because as I'm like, all right, I need to ask about the Paulsons, because that was cool. Just the way you opened up, and I know it's hard to talk about that stuff. So that's cool. Cool. So good for you, and awesome with the program you're building up there. And man, keep coming down to Florida and taking our Florida kids up there and building some amazing athletes. So it's awesome. And I tell people, my son never got to experience youth wrestling. And I think in youth wrestling, you get to see like wins and losses. So he got into a new program that had just started a year before. So he was right into high school wrestling as a 12-year-old. So
wow.
He went 0-30 before he got that first high school win.
Wow.
And people are like, oh my God, wow, this, that, you get mixed emotions. But I'm like, look, I don't think I would have wanted it any other way, because even though right now he's a 14-year-old teenager and I'm not his best friend right now because I'm dad, I think later on in life, or what it's created in him, is better that he survived those 2 seasons of losing and still said, you know what, I'm not, like you said, I'm not hitting that easy button. His goal was not to be the greatest wrestler that ever lived at the time. His goal was to get that first win. So during last offseason, that whole offseason was to that first match he wrestled in high school his freshman year, and he got that win, and it was great. He told me that he went to the locker room and cried for 10 minutes. I cried for 2 weeks, but that's a whole nother, it's a whole nother story. His first tournament he ever placed in, and to me, I tell the story like he won the national title. The place was packed. It was great. He had the gun ready. He turned around. He held his arm real tight, because if they turned around, he would have went. I tell the story like it was in Minnesota in the Dome or something. So
that's awesome.
For him, he looks at me and goes, "No, my year sucked. I lost. I went 0-2 at regionals." And I'm like, "But you got there. Oh my God, look what you did." But for him, it's a whole different feeling. So it's cool, man. So awesome. All right. Well, I wrote down some stuff here, and we'll see what you think. You ready?
Yeah.
All right. So the Monticello or the Mitchie Tavern?
Mitchie Tavern.
Heritage Center or Paramount Theater?
Paramount Theater.
All right. Downtown Mall or James Monroe Highlands?
Oh, Downtown Mall for sure.
I hear it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Rivanna Trail or Ivy Creek?
Rivanna Trail.
Shenandoah Park. Oh, I wrote down Ivy Creek again. I don't know why. I meant to write down Beaver Creek.
Beaver Creek's cool.
At Lake, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. A little drinking, 3-notched or North American sake?
Ha! I don't drink anymore, man. I actually would know. I gave up the booze about 8 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. No, I'm just kidding. Good for you. Well, when I get to come up and see you, we'll have a Pepsi.
Yeah.
All right, Public Fish and Oyster or the Ivy Inn?
Oh, the Ivy Inn is way better. The Ivy Inn's the bomb.
All right, from your youth, Monticello Racetrack or Meadowlands?
Oh, I'll do Monticello Racetrack just because it's closer and it's personal, because my uncle used to work.
Do you think anybody does the horse and carriage anymore?
No.
No. All right, flow or track?
Oh, don't do that to me, man. I hope, because I got friends on both, but I'll say flow. But I've got friends in track too, man. So you just put me on the spot. So that hurt me.
Sorry. All right. I think we all like them both, but I know they both do tournaments and they both do things like that. So it's pretty cool. All right. So being a New Yorker, I'm sure you like pizza. Lampo or Fabio's?
Oh, Lampo for sure. Lampo is amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, man. I go through this stuff, and I used to do.
How do you find all that stuff out? That's incredible. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah. I do my research, and I try to do something different, and I get some feedback like, "Hey, what happened to the wrestling questions?" But I was getting feedback like, "Hey, they were getting kind of monotonous when you were only doing the same 10 all the time." So I kind of adjusted to where I just think it's pretty cool because kids are going to listen to you, and they're going to go up there to go to college. The parents are going to come visit you. So I felt like, let me add some tourist stuff in there. They can hear what the coach likes. Maybe it creates a common ground when they come up there and, "Coach, I heard you say that Lampo's got the best pizza. Come on, coach, let's go." And maybe
Yeah.
it forms something. Or, a parent out there that had a drinking issue and heard you stop drinking. How'd you do it? I'm trying to stop. It's been hard for me, and maybe that's a common ground. So it's been fun to kind of adjust it. But yeah, I went on and I'm like Charlottesville, vacation, attractions, whatever, and then I kind of went from there and hopefully, I mean, I can't find any more stuff, so I'm gonna have to ask Trey the same question. So, Trey, if you're
Well,
listening,
here's what's funny. So I don't know if he's gonna even know some of those joints. He's like living in the dorms, right? Talk about myopic. That dude's. But when you mentioned the Ivy, that's like my favorite restaurant in the whole town. I couldn't believe you knew that. And Lampo's by far it's probably my second favorite place to eat.
So the college kids, I should be doing like ramen noodles, chicken and beef.
Yeah, Little John's. Say Little John's. Yeah.
Yeah. Corn dogs or burritos.
Yeah.
Do they even have microwaves in their rooms? That's awesome. Hey, coach, man. Hey, you bring it, man. And I'm so glad that somebody put us together, because I can see why kids want to wrestle for you. And thank you so much for all you're doing for life and for family and for kids and for God. So good for you.
Well, thank you so much. And call me, text me anytime, brother. I'm glad I got a new friend out of this too, man. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Hey, bro.